If you are a person that asks ChatGPT for like real advice and for things that require real intellect, you are also most probably a person that gets confused in the morning as you are trying to tie your shoelaces, because that app is not meant for questions that require actual intellect. It is a language model. Like, it's very good when it comes to creating text, and it is very good when it comes to copying text and adjusting text, and these kind of things are fine. Like, it's good. Like, I also use it for these kind of things. But then there was a point where I was trying to use ChatGPT for like just basically things that I needed to figure out when it comes to like fitness and like topics like that. And it's so bad at those kind of things, and I quite quickly realized that it is going to make a endless amount of mistakes, because, well, realistically, the app isn't really thinking. It's just copying text from the internet, and it's trying to match text with something that sounds similar to the thing that you asked it. So for example, if you're going to ask ChatGPT for a diet program, it might end up giving you a diet program for like fucking diabetes, not necessarily for fitness. It's just going to find the first thing that, in its opinion, is going to match the topic that you're asking it about, and it's just basically going to give you just like fucking random text. So yeah, like, you shouldn't really use ChatGPT for any kind of like realistic things at all, because I did try to like make it store my weight and make it analyze my weight as it goes up and down. Then I also tried to use it a little bit for diet related advice and just for general fitness advice, and every single time I used it for these kind of purposes, I just got so pissed off, because it just constantly made not even mistakes, but just gave you like not correct information in general. Because like, one thing would be if it would make mistakes, and that would be somewhat okay, and that would be somewhat understandable. But then when it just generally gives you like false information, well, that's not good. So yeah, I kind of got to the point quite quickly, and I quite quickly realized that this is not an app that you should use for these kind of purposes. And another problem that I have with this app is they actually sell it as an app that you should be using for these kind of purposes. And like, even if you're going to ask the app if it is able to answer these kind of questions, it is going to confidently say yes. And it is not going to tell you that, no, this is just a language model and this is not meant to be used in this kind of a way, which is very misleading in my opinion, because I guess they didn't really necessarily say that you should use the app for these kind of purposes. Like, I mean, the commercial team, or like generally the creators of the app, didn't really say that you should use it basically as a artificial intelligence companion that is going to help you with all sorts of various topics. But it does make it sound like it should be able to help you with these kind of things. And then when you just like communicate, not even communicate, but when you text the app, basically, like, it kind of tells you that it is able to figure these things out. And I would argue that it is not. It's not able to figure anything out. The only thing that it is able to do is basically copy text. So yeah, I was actually kind of at some point even like developing this very odd parasocial relationship with ChatGPT, as crazy as it sounds. And I would even start sometimes arguing with the app when it would give me incorrect information. And then I realized, Patrick, you are being a nut job. Like, this is mental. Like, what the fuck is it that you're doing? Like, this is a fucking language model, and you're basically having a full-on relationship with the language model. So you shouldn't really do these kind of things. You shouldn't really try to conversate with the app as a real person. And it's also insidious in a way where it mimics the way that a person would speak. So I mean, obviously with your like mind, you understand that this is an app, this is language module, this is not a real person, and this is not even meant to mimic a real person. But the way that it replies, and the way that it texts you, and the way that it generates text, it kind of makes itself sound like a real person, and it even tries to mimic emotions and tries to mimic like a sense of humor. And that becomes very odd very quickly, because if you're going to spend an extended period of time basically working with the app and like making the app copy shit and like stuff like that, it's kind of going to force you to communicate with it as you would communicate with a real person. And in my opinion, that's a very toxic, that's a very odd dynamic to have with basically like a language module. So yeah, like nowadays I'm trying to use ChatGPT as little as possible, and basically the only purpose that I see for the app is basically copying text and maybe adjusting emails, which is basically how is it that I'm using the app nowadays. Because also it's very odd in a way where like you give it rules, and at the beginning it's going to follow the rules. So for example, you give it rules, you give it a task, and it is going to follow these rules, and it is going to do this task. But then for some reason it always navigates away from the rules over time. So you don't really ask the app to change anything. You, for example, have a chat, you give it the rules for the chat, and then you just basically ask the app to do the task. And it does the task for a while, but then all of a sudden it starts to deviate away from the task and starts to come up with some interesting new ideas of its own. What is it that it's going to do with the task? So like, it's a very unstable, very odd app, to be completely honest. So I would be quite cautious with using it in general. And yeah, basically the only real utility that I see for this app is basically just copying text. 100% do not use it for anything intellectual, and do not use it for you to get help with your fitness goals. That is not going to be a good idea, and it's just going to ruin everything for you, and you're just going to end up being frustrated and confused. So yeah, thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.